Okay, so thank you to our audience for your patience, and thank you my colleagues and Noe for the charts. So as mentioned, we were encountered with slight technical issues, and now it's all okay, and then we can now start our webinars. So allow me to thank you once again, His Excellency Sun Vichir, for his participation today. Thank you, dear guest panelists, for your times to join our webinars today. So as already mentioned, today's webinars is on the intellectual properties in the fashion and garment industries. Without any further delay, I think we, due to the time limit, I would like to now pass on the floor, and also would like to invite His Excellency Mr. Sun Vichir for his welcome remark, and also the presentation on the legal framework as well. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Good afternoon, Mr. Massimiliano Tropino, Sustainability and Garment Industry Expert, EuroCham Cambodian, Mr. Thia Peng, partner of Abacus IP and representative of Southeast Asia IP, also as Helpdesk, a representative from Garment Manufacturing Association in Cambodian, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, on behalf of Excellency Pan Surasa, Minister of Commerce and Chairman of National Committee for Intellectual Property Right, I would like to express my great pleasure that this webinar on intellectual property in the fashion and garment industry. I would like to take the opportunity to express my sincere thanks and my deepest compliment and most profound gratitude to European Chamber of Commerce, the SEA Helpdesk on IP Protection, Department of Intellectual Property of Ministry of Commerce, the Garment Manufacturing for cooperated and organized this webinar on intellectual property in the fashion and garment industry. The main purpose of the webinar is to raise awareness to secure creations such as invention, component of fashion design, symbol, and image used in the trade and commerce of a legal framework in the term of IP protection for the fashion and garment industry in Cambodia. The fashion and garment industry are one of the most innovative and prominent sector. Even they new product and idea are created. Innovation and new idea are important in the fashion and garment industry. So it is very important to protect intellectual property, the right to create and market product in this industry. However, intellectual property in the fashion and garment industry is overlooked in Cambodia. In order to protect this intellectual property right in the current business environment, the main source of competitive advantage for all business, including those in the fashion and garment industry, is disclosure of the innovation to the public and protected. Cambodian, like other countries, have implemented and protected intellectual property right of national and international right holder in order to strengthen the domestic intellectual property framework and competitiveness in order to promote economic development in all sectors in attracting foreign investment, create more jobs, and improve the living standard of the Cambodian people, and especially in the line with Cambodian obligation under international framework and the ASEAN intellectual action plan. At the same time, as in the program, I also would like to present about the current legal framework of intellectual property and how intellectual property to promote garment, textile, and apparel. And as well, I would like to also present you about the current situation about the manufacturing in garment sector in Cambodia. So I would like to start my presentation. Can you move on that? So Cambodia, the main destination or exported market on the garment sector, footwear and textile. The main market is to EU, United States, Canada, and Japan, and other the rest of the world. We see that, we can see the major brand name that invest in Cambodian. We can see that H&M, Adidas, Nike, Spender, Mark that order product from Cambodian. Okay. We can see that we know that in the garment sector in Cambodia, it started in 1993, and that we see the more investor from that is from Hong Kong, Malaysia, and Singapore. So if we see the industrial sector that in 1993, it start only from very small, is 8.2%. But if we up to 2004, it accounted up to 51.8%. That is, we can see that that year is the highest growth in Cambodian. So the total of government sector is contribute to 80% of total GDP. So it means that government sector, government industry contribute to economic development in Cambodia. And if its portfolio about 80% of total export from Cambodian is from government, and other 20% is from other industry and service. And manufacturing output is 80% of share, and it create job about more than 600,000 workers. And we can see that government sector is the major industry for economic and social development partner and the development factor. About the we can see this pie chart in terms of exported product. About 57% of total export from Cambodian, about 57%, and the other is from 43%. In value, if we count it in 2019, about $8 billion, and 2027 we can see 20 about a little bit decline to $7 billion, because of we know that is Cambodian is impact from global pandemic, not only Cambodian, from other the world. so that in terms of ordering of government is declined, and one of the major challenging is to supply raw material from other countries. Especially we imported raw material of fabric from China when China have facing COVID-19, so they cut supply the raw material, so that we can see in 2020 a decline. Okay, we can see that the main major is branding, a brand that ordering produced in Cambodian, as I mentioned before, H&M, Adidas, and the major market is to EU, Canada, Japan, and other market. And go on, move on. Yeah. We see that the challenging in Cambodian, even Cambodian, as I mentioned before, we have export about 8 billion, but in terms of value added, we have no capacity by the own to produce the raw material. Mostly we imported raw material from other country, and we add value in terms only cutting and sewing and export. So it about almost 50% that we depend on the imported raw material, and we add value about 50% for export. Okay, so can go to next slide, please. You see that in the process, in the whole process of supply chain of garment sector and Cambodian, we focus, we just responsible in process of cutting market trim on phase of production, as I mentioned that, so that why we can take advantage among 8 billion that we exported. It almost 50%, almost 4 billion that we import raw material. So what our advantage from adding value about only cutting, the process for cutting, that we can take advantage only about 4 billion for export of the country. Cambodian, even Cambodian have more than 500 manufacturing factory for over that, over 500 for export, but Cambodian still have limited capacity for in terms of weaving fiber or extrude yarn, because in terms of capacity, in terms of technology, in terms of productivity, okay, another is technology. We still have very limited in terms of information technology and computer science. I use computer software to operate garment sector. That is another of our challenging. And another thing, if we have a lower skilled workforce and with high salary, that we know that, of course, if we go back to 1997, next slide. 1997, we see that salary wage in terms of wage is $40 per month, but that wage is increased significantly. If we counted in 2018, our salary is increased to $170 per month. But now, according to the government policy to encourage the welfare of laborer and worker of a government sector, that salary increased to $198 per month. That we see that that is a kind of challenging. We know that if the wage and salary increase, that the unemployment among unskilled labor will decrease, will be increased as well, so that investors in government sector are looking to other countries that with low labor costs. So that in order, we know that we have challenging about the increase of salary. So to solve that problem, unless we have increased our productivity, so that why in order to increase skill, Cambodian have policy like government of Cambodian, we have established a vocational training to promote skill of Cambodian, and also we established the institution for government in order to provide skill to the government worker in order to increase productivity. Can you go to next slide? Yeah. Okay. So as we mentioned that to solve a problem, productivity is very important. We know that productivity is increase more output by use less input. Now we have this advantage in high salary, but in order to increase productivity, unless we have the own raw material. Okay, if we have a place for supply cotton, plantation of cotton, from cotton that is made into yarn, cutting, designing, cutting, coloring, add value. If we can take advantage from all process, from input, from raw material, plant cotton, coloring, cutting, weaving, all of that, that we can increase. We take advantage from all the process of government sector. And one more thing is skill is very important. We know that salary increase, minimum wage increase. So unless to that is increase productivity. And another thing is a design. Design is very important. So that why intellectual property is very important. Add to design to the government sector that create value for Cambodian. Industrial competitiveness is very important. How to make industrial competitiveness? Unless all key players, including supplier, including technology, including skilled labor, including buyer, we have to work together. So Cambodian to be a company in government sector, we should have both all network. If we have manufacturing with good skill, design, technology, we have a good collaboration with buyer. We have the own supplier of raw material that make the government sector in Cambodian is more competitiveness. Management and marketing is very important. It's a management how to make the industry good management, good structure, good accountant, good marketing, good IT. That good management make the firm have more competitiveness and also marketing. Of course, if we have produced a product, but how to push the product to the market, how to make the buyer understand that product available Cambodian, how to they order, that is important for the competitiveness of the government sector in Cambodian. Unless the individual manufacturing, individual factory, they have the competitiveness. If over all of manufacturing, about over 500 manufacturing are existing now, have their own competitiveness, so that we can strengthen the competitiveness industry and in Cambodian. Can you go to next slide? Yes. I'm a little bit far away from the screen, so I cannot see the screen. So I have to use double screen. Okay. We know that who play a key role in the government sector in Cambodian, private sector, investment. Another thing is intangible asset, intellectual property also plays a factor to promote a government sector in Cambodian. So we have to work together. So intellectual property production will create enabling environment to private sector invest in industry. So we know that the role of intellectual property to promote SME, to promote product development, to allow SME, private sector, have the idea to produce the product, to become entrepreneur, especially in the government sector as well. Intellectual property, through transfer technology, through produce the product and development, through design, through patent, copyright, trademark that protect the business of the entrepreneurship of the government sector. Also transfer technology to government sector as well. So can we go to next slide? One more thing. Okay, you know that if you see that the process of supply chain of government sector, the raw material to produce garment include fabric, button, sewing, thread, and accessory like zipper, shoulder pad, and label, etc. And generally, garment and apparel manufacturing process involve product design, fabric production, pattern making, cutting, sewing, detailing, and dyeing, with all of these related to intellectual property. Okay, you see that. What a component of intellectual property? Patent, design, trade secret, copyright, and trademark. And how those of intellectual property promote the government sector. So you see that intellectual property combined together make a product and value added to product. Okay, now one part of design. You see, then in terms of how to make design of that. So registering the design prevent all other from exploiting the new or original ornamental or artistic aspect and three-dimensional feature such as attractive shape, and two-dimensional features such as artistically and pleasing textile printing. So now if you design a garment in terms of clothes, in terms of bag, in terms of footwear, in terms of other textile, in terms of other apparel, your design can be in order to protect your asset. You have to register industrial design for your product. Okay. Without registration, there will be more competitor copy your industrial your intellectual property. For example, with Vuitton, after they issue a new product with industrial design, you know, industrial design is the shape artistic of the product that it make you value. You know, intellectual property create a unique product, add value to that. You have from your idea, create a product with industrial design. You have register. When you have registered, that the law protect you, prohibit from other third party exploit, copy from you for 5 years plus 5 years, renew 5 years and 5, totally 15 years. In Cambodian, under the legal framework, I'm sorry, we just communicate with our colleague. Yeah. Okay. Okay. You know that we have a legal framework. We have law on patent and that's a utility model and industrial design adopted in 2003. That law is protect about the industrial design. You know that industrial design play a key role for the government sector in terms of design, in terms of three-dimensional, in terms of artistic, in terms of ornamental, especially when you design clothes, the fashion and bag and other. So after the design is released to the market, of course, I raised the important one of the businessmen that first they start very successful in terms of government sector in US, and when they release the new product into the market by they establish they utilize intellectual property by designing their own fashion and on bag, they are very successful, but they are not protected by intellectual property. They don't register industrial design, protect by intellectual property. Later on, a competitor from other country use the same design with the same bag with lower price to compete, so that they face that make their competitor when they have competitor, the business decline. So that why now we have law on patent, utility model, and industrial design, that if the government sector, if the entrepreneur have the new design for the own fashion, own government, they should be registered, and the law will protect them from third party to do the same design, industrial design, for importing, for manufacturing, for offer for sale, etc. That is the important for intellectual property. Okay, you see, this is a kind of in terms of the design, industrial design with two-dimensional for the government. Okay, how the copyright related to government sector. We know that copyright, we have law on copyright related right adopted by in 2003, that law on copyright related right protect work. We have literacy work, we have music work, we have painting, we have applied art, we have sculpture, we have map, something like that. So mostly in copyright, that is applied art. Applied art is related to the government sector in terms of, we know that in apply on many things, right? In terms of coloring, in terms of designing, in terms of all that is protected by intellectual property. So you have to take advantage from apply art, from copyright, to protect your business, your government sector, to add value to your product that make you more competitiveness. One more thing is software. So you know the computer program is very important, right? It's unprotected under copyright. If you can utilize a computer program for designing, computer program for controlling and management and processing of government, that also promote your government sector, government manufacturing more competitiveness as well. So copyright is one of great idea. We have the cultural creativity. We have copyright in terms of, especially applied art. You can take advantage from applied art to promote your design, promote your product in both in two-dimensional and in the fashion as well. Technology information. You know that we have a law on patent. Patent is referred to any technology. There are three characteristics for protection by patent: new technology, in the industry applicable, and inventive stuff. So how patent related to fashion? Government. You know that many firms that use in terms of fabric. If they have invention in fabric, in textile, like GMAC, you know, your GMAC is one of trademark that they have a team for research and development, how to make the product more technical in terms of waterproof, in terms of friendly in wearing. We see that now many fashion, many clothes, many textile, footwear, it's not traditional anymore. We have clothes for medical. Now, like COVID now, in terms of COVID, we need a clothes with technology. Okay, in terms of space, there we need clothes. That all we need patent for invented clothes to solve the technical problem, the need of the people. So intellectual property is very important. If we use the way of cutting, the way of producing clothes in traditional way, of course, our business, our product will not grow as we want. But if we use technology, we use intellectual property, make our competitiveness more development, more compete. Okay, in terms of trademark, you know that we have a law on mark, trade name, and act of unfair competition adopted in 2002 under the control of Ministry of Commerce. What is trademark? Trademark is a sign to distinguish good and service of one enterprise to other enterprise. Trademark can be one, can be a word, for example, Atisang Dong Angko, Lotus is a word. Mark, trademark like gold star, like sun, like moon. That mark is word. Mark can be a letter. CVC, Kodak. That a letter. Mark can be color. You see that the color with this lotus is color. Mark can be a sign. Mark can be a device. For example, Caltech with the device like of Toyota with other logo. That is a trademark. So, for example, Atisang Dong Angko, that is a trademark, but a product is what? Scrap. H&M, Louis Vuitton, that is a trademark that used with one type of product, common sector. So, trademark is very important. If you have a business, you establish a company in the government sector, you produce garment, textile, and other apparel or footwear, you need a trademark. Got trademark protection. Okay, I just to check whether I'm consume more time. So I have 10 more minutes, so I will try to finish on time. Yeah. Okay, so trademark is very important. First, you make a trademark to distinguish a good and service of your product to other. Second, you register trademark. How the law protect it? If you register, the law protect your trademark, prevent the other from third party to use similarity, identical similarity of your trademark, and prohibit the third party from offering the sale, producing, import, and export of your product without your consent, without your authorization. And if you protect a trademark, they protect for 10 years and you renew unlimited. Okay. Trade secret. How trade secret related? You know, trade secret. The trade secret is protected. We are in Ministry of Commerce are drafting the law on trade secret and disclosed information. So we will protect it. Trade secret, if we protect information, any information, their value information, methodology, strategy, the way of management, marketing, and other the control system. So how trade secret promote government sector? If you have a good management, good skill, management, strategy, control your production to make your product more unique. All of that is protected by law. So any information, any skill, any methodology, any technology that have value and you keep it secret, that we protect by law. So trade secret, of course, in the way that how you designing your garment, apparel, other. You use computer strategy system that promote your garment industry, garment manufacturing. All of that is protected by law, by trade secret. So you keep that, use intellectual property that protect from third party that illegally use your technology, use your skill, use your methodology, use the way how you manage. Okay. Okay, this is I don't go that example of Sara is one of successful garment manufacturing that use IT for their management and they keep secret of that system. Okay, how geographical indication related to garment. Okay, we have a law on GI, geographical indication, adopted and under the management of Ministry of Commerce. So GI, of course, then collecting mark. So like seal Phnom Srok in Cambodian, that is will be registered as collecting mark. And we also identify seal in other country, in other region to register a collecting mark. That is also one would like to promote garment and textile in Cambodian as well. Golden seal, that is also use intellectual property, and we plan to register in collecting mark as well. Okay, so regarding to the IP administration in Cambodian, IP is not one roof. We have in separate ministry. Under Ministry of Commerce, we have a mandate on the law concerning mark training and act on unfair competition that I mentioned before, that we provide the protection of registered trademark, geographical indication, trade secret. Under Ministry of Industry, Science and Technology, that under the law on patent, that we know that patent, industrial design, utility model, plant variety also, new plant variety. And plant variety, we have a co-mandate under Ministry of Industry, Science and Technology, and MAF, Ministry of Agriculture. But we have one law we call law on seed management and new plant variety. Under Ministry of Culture and Fine Art, we have copyright and related right. That, as I mentioned before, that the most intellectual property that relate to government is applied art and painting and as well. So that you can take advantage from agriculture, art from culture, from copyright to promote intellectual property, to promote government as well. So you will know that we have Thai intellectual property, but we have one management we call National Committee for Intellectual Property Right, that under the chairmanship of Ministry of Commerce and Department of Intellectual Property, and I myself is the head of Secretariat of National Committee for Intellectual Property that cover all of that. So what the way we do that, now we draft we have a national action plan of intellectual property for National Committee for Intellectual Property 2002-2003. We are drafting the IP policy for national IP for policy, and we have draft the action plan of IP activity 2022-2027. All of that activity we have, of course, we have objective of draft law and regulation, strengthen government institution, public awareness, enforcement, and there are many things related to copyright, also related to government sector, especially to promote the culture for creativity, to promote the culture for government sector. Also, we promote SME to invest. We know that government sector play a key role in Cambodian. We know that about 80% that government sector is accounted for the total export in Cambodian. But the challenging in Cambodian is what we depend on the import of raw material. So what the way we do, how to solve a problem, unless we have enough capacity to produce our own raw material, and other we add value in terms of designing, cutting, coloring, apply art, all of that. So intellectual property is very important. We know that now in Cambodian, that that they are very successful how to use intellectual property, how to use copyright to promote the cultural creativity. We have Mr. Sambat, yeah, that present yesterday. Yesterday we have activity co-organized between the Department of Intellectual Property with WIPO, with World Intellectual Property Organization, to organize intellectual property to promote CEWA, Cambodian Women Entrepreneurship, and that we invited one of successful entrepreneur we call Kaimis. And they design with they share experience how to utilize intellectual property. The creativity, they say that just examine to the in Angkor Wat design, and they use from the design for apply art in that product, in terms of bag, in terms of clothes, in terms of other, and they sell to the market. Now they have export not only to other countries, to China, to other Europe and other. So that is one of the example how to be successful. So Cambodian, okay, even we have more than 500 factories, but mostly from foreign direct investment, and mostly we import technology from them. Mostly we use the design, the trademark. But in order to promote government sector, unless we have the own trademark, we have the own technology pattern, we have the own design, use our own design. As I mentioned, now Cambodian is historical country. They are traditional in terms of music, in terms of art, in terms of painting, in terms of language, in terms of culture, in terms of the way of living. There are a lot of things that we use that our culture, our traditional, to be as intellectual property, to apply for their own product, to promote government sector. And of course, the school of design, the school of under the Ministry of Culture, we should be to promote it. We are shortage of designer. We are shortage of research and development in government. We are shortage of raw material. We are shortage of technology. So build the own trademark on government, build the own technology in terms of government, build the own production management in Cambodian. That the way how we promote our government sector in Cambodian. So once again, I would like to thank you for the organizer, and I wish the workshop successful. That is very important. So I thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your insightful opening remarks and the presentation, of course. So before I proceed, may I use these opportunities to thanks and our partners, and without them this webinar would not be possible. So this webinar is in association and the participation of Southeast Asia IP SME Helpdesk, along with the participation of GMAC, the Government Manufacturer Association in Cambodia. Thank you for your support and in organizing these webinars. Quickly also to thanks the entire EuroCham annual partners for this year. So without any further delay, may I please give the floor and also to invite Mr. Tia Peng. Mr. Tia Peng is currently the partners at Abacus IP and External Export of Southeast Asia IP SME Helpdesk. So he will be giving his presentation on the issues for fashion and garment industry in Cambodia and the experiences from the region itself. So Bong Peng, I now pass you on the floor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I can share my slide, right?
Yes, indeed, Bong. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, you see it full, right?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Your Excellencies, Mr. Sumichi is advisors of the Ministry of Commerce and Director of the Department of Intellectual Property. Mr. Masi Malino, our moderator in this important event, distinguished guests and all participants. So it's a great pleasure for me to join this webinar, and I would like to thank you to Southeast Asia IP SME Helpdesk and EuroCham for inviting me to join this important event. So first of all, please allow me to introduce briefly about Southeast Asia IP SME Helpdesk and their core service. So the Southeast Asia IP SME Helpdesk is an initiative of the European Commission to have the European small and medium-sized enterprises to protect and enforce the intellectual property right in relation to the Southeast Asia. And the service provided by the Helpdesk, the Southeast Asia SME Helpdesk, is free of charge for the EU SME and also for intermediary. So you can see from the slide, you can see the rank of the service that offered by the Helpdesk. So firstly, through the inquiry helpline, you can send all IP questions related to the Southeast Asia to the Helpdesk, and then you will receive the reply within 3 working days. Secondly, the Helpdesk organize a monthly training workshop and live webinar across the Europe and Southeast Asia throughout the year. Also, please feel free to subscribe a newsletter and then connect with the team on the social media to keep you updated on the upcoming activity. Thirdly, is Helpdesk website gives you access a wide range of publication in terms of the country fact sheets, specific IP guides, general IP guide on the various IP topic. This guide can be easily downloaded or found and downloaded by from the Helpdesk website. So last but not least, Helpdesk offer the interactive tool, a learning tool for e-Moodle, so which is available for download as well from the official website. So before we go to the slide presentation, so there is a question. So we have 2 questions. So can I protect the product via only one type of IP right? So the answer A, B, and C. True, if the product is protected by the trade dress, the trade dress cannot be protected via trademark as well. B, for using several layers of protection, if possible, is better. Or C, I don't know. So the question number 2 is copyright protected. Protection is expensive, and registration process is difficult in Cambodian. So we have A is true, B is false, and then C is I don't know. So please try to answer this.
Thank you, Bong. So to quickly mention, all the guest participants should be able to see a pop-up screen of the poll question itself. So I'm leaving around 1 minute to everyone to answer this question. Thank you. Okay, so I'm ending now the poll. Bong Peng, would you like to us to show the result here?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay. So everyone should be able to see now the result on the screen. Yeah. Or if not, please select on the poll the icon below. Yeah. So I can quickly mention for the first question, we have 8% voted for true, and then 67% for false, 25% don't know. For the second question, we have 22% voted for true, and 50% voted for false, and around 28% voted for don't know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, thank you. So most of the answers is correct. So yeah, let's continue with our slide. Okay, government. I think the first few slides will be like quite similar to His Excellency Sun this year. So I will try to move quickly on that. So garment and clothing industry is the overall production of value chain of clothing garment from textile production, embroidery, sewing, fashion design, retailing to the second hand of clothes and textile recycling. For the fashions, mean production and marketing of new style. So this definition encapsulates the challenge of managing IP in fashion industry, namely balancing the cost to develop IP versus a commercial opportunity to exploit it a short life. So Cambodian garment factory are generally based on the principle of cut matching, like Mr. Sundishi mentioned earlier. This means raw material and machinery and design of the garment are exported from abroad, while Cambodian factory workers assemble the product by cutting and sewing. The famous brand like Adidas, Sara, M&H, and many other have outsourced their production to Cambodian. This is like Mr. Sun Vishir mentioned earlier in his presentation. So the garment and footwear making up almost 3/4 of export. So you can see from textile, the green one, textile is 64% and footwear and headwear is 9.6%. The remaining figure are essentially a few precious metal, namely gold and then rice. So I think this is this is out of that for our slide. Mr. Sunvichi have shown you the last update in 2020. So please move. I will move quickly. So how is fashion protected in Cambodia? So as Mr. Sunvichi he briefly present. So there are several regimes that the fashion industry or fashion can be protected. So we have a trademark, industrial design, and copyright is for non-functional, and then the patent for functional. So for the trademark is for distinctive identification of the product or service, and then how to get it is through use or through registration. But in Cambodian, we follow the first two register systems, so we recommend you to register it, and then before you enforce your right. So the second one is industrial design, is for visual appearance of the product. So you can obtain the right from registration with the Ministry of Industry. So the third one is a copyright, is for the original creation or artistic form. This right is automatically exists and is protected by the Ministry of Culture and Fine Arts. So for patent is for new innovation and application examination is functional. So we have a second poll question. So these shoes are protected under which form of IP? A, patent, B, copyright, C, trademark, D, industrial design. Okay, please maybe take 1 minute, right?
Yes, Bong. Yeah. Okay, so 1 minute has ended. I will show now the result. Okay. So the result showed 13% chose for patent, 8% for copyright, 33% for trademark, and 46% for industrial design. Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you.
So all answers are correct. Okay, so the issue is Adidas Ultra Boost DNA 5.0. So there are many IP regime that you can protect it for this kind of shoe. So you have patent for protection of the material or sole design or manufacturing technique. So we have an industrial design for overall, visual appearance or overall appearance for the shoe. And then you have a copyright for brand's logo or the color design of the shoe or the word, the logo, loud, unites, or the product logo. And then for the trademark, you can protect Adidas, the word Adidas alone, and then the word loud, unites, and then Adidas brand logo with the word Ultra Boost DNA, and then the design of the 3 straps, color scheme, and overall. So you can see these just one shoes only, and then you can protect various IP regime. So here is the statistic for trademark filing by industry sector. So trademark are by far and away the most use of the IP in Cambodia. So about 70,000 mark already registered, and then another 9,000 new one each year. So this chart show you a clothing sector representing a significant share of the registration with over 11% of the total. This is intuitive as when the average person think about the trademark, likely fashion brand first come to mind. So according to the Article 2 of the Trademark Law 2002, so a trademark is defined as any visible sign capable distinguishing goods and service of an enterprise. So logo and name of the brand are the most people think when they think about a trademark. Logo can be just a name of brand or stylized form like the mark of Fubo or Sara, or the combination of the device like Nike or Versace, or just a device alone like Harmony Eagle. So all of these are separated, protectable in Cambodia. About the color mark, so the best example of the color mark in fashion are distinctive red soles of the Louboutin shoe. So they have sought to protect the use of the color red as a trademark around the world. But in Cambodia, they cannot register red alone. They have to register the sole shape in red. In this effect, give them exclusive use of the color on the sole, as it would be very difficult to design a sole that did not have a general shape. So they protect in class 3, 18 and 25 for their product in Cambodia. So trade dress is sometimes is overall commercial image of the product and service that identify or indicate the source of the product or services that distinguish it from those of another. Depending on the jurisdiction, it might, for example, include a design or configuration of the product, packaging of the goods, or the core in which the service are provided. The dress can consist such elements, size, shape, colors, texture, and etc. To extent such elements are not functional. So here is a dress. Cambodia does not require an applicant to actually use a trademark at the time of filing. So you can submit the application for registration, even though you don't use it when you file application. However, if it's not used, up to 5 years can be canceled, and the affidavit of use should be filed in the 5th years. So according to the law, they provide two options: is affidavit of use, or you can file the affidavit of non-use. So the question is, if the brand owner only has a product manufactured in Cambodia for export, no only sell, can they register and maintain their mark? Let's think about it. Okay, the answer is yeah, it's practice manufacturer for exports only qualify as sufficient use to maintain a mark. So submit evidence of production in Cambodia when you file the affidavit of use in the 5th year. So we recommend it to file to register a trademark any mark that appear on the code that made in Cambodia. So we recommend you to register it. So the design here, as defined by the design law, as mentioned by His Excellency Sun this year. So defined as any combination of line or color, any 3-dimensional form, or any material that give a special appearance, and then appear to and judged by the eye. So for this closest textile apparel night crochet can be registered as industrial design if they are new. So what is new? So new here means they cannot have been disclosed to the public anywhere in the world by publication in tangible form or by use or any other way prior of filing the application, or where applicable the priority there. So this is the statistic for article of closing that we took from the Ministry of Industry. This is in 2019. So here are some examples of the industrial design register for apparel. One on the left, okay, from the 6C back bra, in the way of the strap and cross and assemble, it look like when you even able to you might even able to patent it, presume it new and inventive. In the middle is the helmet, which you also saw register as a trademark. This is a good example for fashion that register in multiple regime. And the last one is I love Cambodian shirt. The design would be automatically protected under the copyright law and could be registered as also a trademark. So copyright is protected the original work of the authorship. Typically we think about a book, photograph, movie, but actually much broader, like a trademark and industrial design. You cannot use copyright to protect a functional aspect of the fashion, but it does cover such a thing as many images printed on the t-shirt and the creative color on the Adidas shoe, and also most trademarks logo would be copyrighted, and any image of the product are also independent copyright. This can help you when you go after an online infringer. They're selling not just infringing product, but also using a brand's own marketing tool. So copyright, we are not a member of the Berne Convention. So all foreign work are not protected in Cambodia unless they meet the criteria in the copyright law. So recently, Cambodian enacted one legislation in 2020, but we're waiting for a formal accession to the treaty, and then one is ready. So all foreign work will be protected, auto-protected. So the protection of the work is from the time of creation. We would recommend you to record or to register your work with the Ministry of Culture and Fine Arts. So in case infringement or dispute occurs, so you have the evidence. So take home, many form of IP protect garment and fashion. Second, Cambodian has well-established IP regime that follow international standard. And to address infringement, firstly, you have to register and then enforce it and then monitor it. So this is the last poll. We have the same question, like the first one. So can I protect a product via one type of IP? A, true if the product is protected by trade dress and then cannot be protected via trademark as well. B, false, using several layers of protection is possible, it's better. C, I don't know. For the copyright, protection is expensive and registration process is difficult in Cambodia. So A, true, B, false, and C, I don't know. So I think after you have listened to the slide presentation, I think you better understand about this kind of question. So can you show the answer?
Sure, Bong. 1 second.
Yeah, I think it's increasing. Yeah. Okay. I think yes, that's all for my slide today. And thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, so thank you so much, Mr. Tiapeng, for your presentation. So moving on, next on the agenda item, I will go straight into the panel discussion. But first, allow me to introduce quickly our moderators, Mr. Monti Mileno. He is currently the sustainable and government expert at EuroCham Cambodia. So today he will be moderators for today's panel discussions. We have also on the panel Mr. Lau Risay. Mr. Risay is currently the Deputy Director of the Intellectual Property Department at the Ministry of Commerce. We have also Mr. Lai Sambat. Mr. Sambat is the Deputy Chief of Bureau of Education and Public Awareness at the Ministry of Commerce, who are also joining from MOC. We have once again Mr. Tiapeng, who was recently present on the presentation earlier. And we have new on the panel also Mr. Kang Monica. Mr. Monica is the Deputy Secretary General of GMAC Cambodia. Welcome to have him. And we have also Mr. Christopher Horn Armini. He's currently the EuroCham board members and also the country managers of H&M Cambodia and Vietnam. Thank you, Christopher, for joining us. And last but not least, we have Mr. Arjun Lane. He's currently the CEO of Patix Groups. So that is all. Monti, and I'll pass you on the floor and start our panel discussion. And I would like to first also mention that since we start a bit late in the beginning, so please also expect a slight delay in the today webinar session. We will finish off between 15 to 20 minutes late. So feel free to join us until the end. Thank you.
Yes. Thanks, Rotnak. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Your Excellency, Sun Vichair, Mr. Tiapeng, for your presentation. I find it very, very insightful, also quite interacting with the question. Few things I didn't know. I would like to also, from my side, say thank you to all our panelists that have joined from the private sector, from the factory side, Mr. Arjun Lan, from the brand side, and from the, above all, also from the GMAC side. Mr. Kang Monica is with us today. And of course, also the other representative from the Ministry of Commerce, from different bureau. I would like to start with a small question from a layman that is actually, how to say, looking at the presentation in front. The question is for Tia Peng. What is the fine line? As we know, in the garment sector, the trend starts from is set by the big designers and then trickles down to the street retailers, and is often a matter of inspiration, and some other time it's also a matter of copying. So where is the fine line in the garment sector in between copying and taking inspiration? Is it only the trademark or not? Is if I trademark my printer, then is a copying. But if I didn't trademark and I still copy, it's not officially a copy. So I would like to have an opinion from an expert. Mr. Tiapeng, thank you.
So thank you for the question. So yes, it's an excellent question. So you're absolutely right. And then there is a fine line between without easy answer. As I hope has come across in my presentation, IP does not protect entire product itself, but rather different form of IP can be protect different element of the product in different way. So when it seems like someone has copied a product, we really have to dive deep into the element that they are actually protected by the IP and how closely they have been copied. This is a very specific, specific analysis. So for instance, you might have a brown a leather shoe with a logo on it, and there is probably a little protectable IP in that aside from the logo. That means someone else can make the same extra shoe and then put different logo.
I see. Thank you for the reply. I would like to remind the participants that they are free to ask any question in the Q&A. I can see already that there are some questions coming, which we will attend a little bit later. A couple of questions have already been replied by our expert. Yeah, the second question that I would like to address a little bit to everybody is that as the panelists know, most of the garments, over 60%, that are actually fake, originate in China. But the problem, as a matter of fact, is really a regional problem. I would say this involves also Thailand, Singapore, Vietnam, and Cambodia as well. So in the recent year, this has increased at an alarming rate. And I know that if you were to go in a popular market in Cambodia, you were most probably to find some of the goods that are counterfeit from some of the biggest brands. So I would like to ask to the Department of Ministry of Commerce, particularly Mr. Lau, and also Mr. Sambat, what are, in your view, what are your view about this big problem and these large counterfeit markets? And we know that the government of Cambodia has undertaken large campaign to destroy the counterfeit, but how can we address the issue to the root? Thank you. So Mr. Lau first.
Yeah, thank you so much for the excellent question. And to begin with, I just would like to draw your attention to understand what is the meaning of the counterfeit.
is some kind of activity is to imitate something authentic with the intent to steal or destroy or replace the original for use in illegal transaction. Yes. So the counterfeit product normally exists in all the market around the world. So we have to understand on it. So it is more or less that the Cambodia is not a country which produce the large counterfeit product. We are the place to import and use or transfer those products to another country. So we always struggle to destroy and cut off the distribution channel of the counterfeit product in the country in order to eradicate the maximum levels. So there are many mechanisms that we are installing to prevent to take action again on the fake good at border with the custom authority. And we also cut the unknown product or infringing the exclusive right products into the markets. However, it is to understand that it cannot avoid the smuggling or uncontrolled gate. So that's why, therefore, in the national wide, we have the Consumer Protection Competition and Fraud Repression Directorate, we call CCF, of the Ministry of Commerce, and Counterfeit Committee, CC, of the Ministry of Interior, to work further to stop circulating the counterfeit product. We know we do a lot of campaign, as you mentioned, to destroy the counterfeit, but it is not a sole authority responsibility. We need to cooperate from our stakeholder, both public and private sector. Yes, for the government and the partner have prepared many training, conduct many training and workshop on IP enforcement, especially to the enforcement agency, enforcement officer on the content for on the counterfeit product, to the trade competent authority, for example, and as well as to the public to better understanding the genuine product. As a result, in September 2019, the CC and the EuroCham in Cambodia signed on the MOU on the cooperation in order to fight against the importation product distribution counterfeit product into the Kingdom of Cambodia. So that is the mechanism that the Ministry of Commerce as well as the CC and the Consumer Protection. So our authority are ready to respond, to cooperate with the trademark owner, for example, or the company which has exclusive right to distribute the brand item, which can take action together. And we are not able to eradicate counterfeit only one night. So it takes time and our effort, commitment together to combat the counterfeit product. Yes. Thank you. I hope it's answer to your question.
Yes, of course, there are quite many challenges out there. Mr. Sambat, you would like to add something?
Yes, so thank you very much, Masi Milano, for very great coordinator in this very interesting program. So I don't have much more information to be covered with our as deputy department director of deputy department of intellectual property, but he already covered it already. But because of this counterfeit be happen, which is different reason. Okay, so across the country, especially lack of understanding of our stakeholders. So and second one is the lower level of law enforcement. So that's why this key element, which is affect to the counterfeit product, and that's why the government, like our deputy director has been mentioned earlier. So we try to increase our capacity building to among the stakeholder. Okay, so and also I would like to add some more, which is the to address the issue with is the root. The trademark owner or the enterprise, I can say enterprise owner has to be, if there is any case or there are any case which will be happen, it would be great to report this case to the competent authority or relevant authority, and also well cooperation among the stakeholder, including a government body itself and the other stake relevant holder. Thank you.
Thank you. And I actually would like to, for what is possible, to learn about the opinion of the private sector, particularly Mr. Christer and Mr. Arjen, about this issue. Christer?
Masi, thanks. I think, would you just repeat the question quickly?
Yeah. The question is basically how would the counterfeit market that it exists, and the smuggling of the goods that are counterfeit across the border in Cambodia are affecting your supply chain, and or rather your brand in this country, and in case if you decide to take any action on it.
Thank you for asking the question. I will address it in two parts. I think first of all, from it is a challenge. It is absolutely a big problem. I think it's been stated earlier with the previous speakers about, in the end of the day, it's about promoting and protecting our industry. I think that from an H&M perspective, as we day by day, we expand our ways of reaching to our consumers, and also the channels that we use for the consumers are also increasing based upon who we're trying to reach. And this IP infringement, it is creating tremendous amount of risk to several of us. And I think that to start with is us, international brands, and the reputation that we have created. It challenged that because of, we set such a big focus on sustainability, meaning social and environment matters. We have a strong focus on quality assurance, which in the end of the day is about the customer safety. We know that, and then I'll let you talk about that, but also we have all the responsible factories with all the focus on compliance and securing and adhering to all this regulatory work, but also again, back to customer safety. And then within this industry, you have the risk of workers and the workplace. And these factories are very shy of exposure, right? There's very little to zero compliance. And that again, puts social and environmental risks, big risks. So it affects us as brands, it affects factories, it affects the reputation of the labor market. And I think more importantly, in the end, for us here, it affects Cambodia, right? As an attractive and a secure and a transparent and responsible sourcing market. So I think that's the industry perspective from us. Then from an H&M perspective, we try to bring it down to 4 categories or 4 boxes because of it is such a fast-moving environment, right? Online and offline. But one is to protect revenue, right? Because we have unauthorized selling and unauthorized accounts, websites, etc., that are trying to portray themselves as H&M. Back to my first point, brand reputation, right? Our brand is the most valuable asset we have, and that's decades that we built to strengthen that, and that comes with customers' trust. We need to protect that. Sustainability I mentioned, and then safety, which is linked to sustainability. Why counterfeit products entering the market is potentially very hazardous, and we have extremely high controls, and we can't allow that to be jeopardized or be tampered with because of that infringement by counterfeit, etc. So I hope that's answering 2 of your questions. I know the time is short, and I can get into further if you want to.
Oh yes, the reply is very, very clear. It affects the reputation of Cambodia. It affects the business. It affects the brand. Very clear. Mr. Arjen, who is the leader of Paktis Group. Paktis Group works for whomever of you that don't know, for a lot of luxury, high luxury eyewear. So in glasses, and particularly they make the how do you call it, Arjen? Help me.
Packaging is basically the luxury packaging. Yeah. The
luxury packaging of the eyewear. Yes, I'm curious to hear your opinion.
Yeah, a couple of thoughts. I of course completely agree with Christer. That's not so strange because we're in the same corner. On the whole import and production thing, I would have a question, and maybe Mr. Lau can answer that later. How much the proportion is import versus production in Cambodia of counterfeit things, and is that stable? Is that growing? Is that going? Do we have any view or feeling on that? I would be interested. But on the other things is we work for big brands, and what our slogan is, your brand in safe hands, and it's all about that reputation, is that brands builds on a lot of stuff, safety, quality, and so on, and that's what you want to protect. So we as a factory, we can implement all kinds of things to make sure that things are not leaking. That is what we do, that we have to do also. We also have to sign all kinds of documents and non-disclosure agreements and whatever to make sure we don't use the information from one brand to another one. So that is all pretty good regulated, and we would harm ourselves if we would use that, of course, because you lose your client in the end. So that's not very clever to do. I think the difficulty is a bit there's a thin line between what you would say it's a counterfeit, so it's really made to look like an expensive brand, either it's Gucci or whatever. If it's a lookalike, it's not exactly the same, but the name is just slightly different, just 1 letter or 2 letters different, and just a small change. Or is it inspiration? I guess because we work also with brands that design, and we co-design, mainly on the travel and luggage, so on the back side, not so much on the packaging side, but much more on the travel and luggage. Is where is it inspiration indeed, and where is it getting close? Now there are a few criteria that you can follow, and that we have to keep a close eye on, that it's not a copy, but it's got a couple of elements, and there's 5, 6 things that should be distinctively different in order to make it a new design, let's say. So that is something that we have to do as a manufacturer, and that we do. Nevertheless, it's frustrating to see, of course, that you put a lot of time and quality in making it, and that you see for very little money the same products on the market, or products that are nearly exactly the same. So maybe directing the question a little bit back to Mr. Lau is what is the percentage import versus production in Cambodia, and do you see any developments there in a certain way?
Yes, we will give Mr. Lau some time to recollect some numbers, but before that, I would like to address the very same question to our representative of GMAC, the Deputy Secretary General, Mr. Kang Monica, who is with us today. Has the association ever addressed the problem, or has the association ever encountered troubles like this, of some of your members complaining about that? Mr. Monica?
Good afternoon. First of all, thank
welcome.
you, EuroCham, for having me this afternoon. I think, first of all, it's important to highlight that the fashion industry, particularly garment, has a very long supply chain, and it's important to understand the limited operations or business activity that we are getting involved as a contract manufacturer. We all know that we are a contract manufacturer, or we call original equipment manufacturing. We do not own the brands, but we produce for the brand. As a matter of principle, we are not supposed to produce fake product. And so far, we do not encounter any problems that any one of our members producing counterfeit products to either supply locally or overseas. We only produce original product under the order of the brand, and in less cases, under the order of a certain trading company. But of course, we have obligations to contribute to the protections of intellectual properties of our brand buyers. I think there are two areas that are mainly relevant. One is trademarks, and second is trade secret. As we generally understand, trademark covers, the use of the symbol, the logos, and the designs of the products of our brand buyers. Of course, we cannot allow all these products to leak out to the normal market before it released officially at the store of our brand buyers. Of course, there are certain cases of pilferage, the stolen garment out of the garment factory, but I think this is an exceptional case, and the situation has been improved a lot with strengthening measure by the factory. With regard to design, I think little we can do about it. If there's a case of copy of the design, because fashion, particularly garments, we call fast fashion. There's a lot of designs, and they are just a little bit different. When it comes to the protection of designs, to my understanding, we have to be able to highlight what are really the creative component of the designs that is protected, by the intellectual property, and your design is protected. Most of the time, the design are quite similar, and they're just a little bit different. And I think practically it's very difficult to catch the culprits, in terms of copying the design. Second, on trade secret, I think in addition to the counterfeit market that we're dealing with, we carry the obligations to protect the trade secret of our brand buyers. So these start from the practice of their business formulas, the process, the system they use, all of the important information which forms a competitive advantage for their business. So we carry obligation to protect this and not to share this sensitive information to the outsiders, on the principle of non-disclosure agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the position of the association is very clear, and as per the experience of everybody, even my experience, I definitely don't think that this kind of factory are a part of the GMAC, rather they go under the radar, etc. There used to be a problem of pilferage from factories or in warehouse or during transportation in Cambodia. As far as I know, it has been solved quite effectively by the authorities in the port of Sihanoukville and at forwarder warehouses also. So, okay. And another question, which is rather being partially touched by Mr. Aryan, how does your factory and how does your brand or protects your factory and the supply chain in general? How does the intellectual properties protected at H&M side, Christer, for example, along the supply chain?
Yeah, I think I mean, Aryan and what he represents and what I represent, you know, it goes hand in hand, right? We have agreements which are super, super clear. We have, from an H&M perspective, it's called SPC, which is a standard purchase condition, which is the basis of any business to start with a factory. And factories, we don't own any factory with H&M. It's a trust and a partnership we have together. So that's been co-signed. We fully agree with that, and it's super, super clear in terms of rights, intellectual properties, and process and so forth. The other one is that we also only export, right? So it all sits within factories, agreed process from a purchasing order, pretty much to packaging into warehouse down to port and out of the country. So it is a closed process, and based upon, of course, a partnership and trust. And if things would happen, there is, of course, consequences accordingly, etc. But it's very, very clear. It's very much intellectual property agreements. It's very clear SPCs on how it works and so forth and so on. And it's also a process, you know, again, we work with factories for 10, 20 years, and that system is very well maintained and very well controlled.
Yes, thank you. I know for a fact that some of the higher brand, I mean high street brand, are going beyond the mere agreement or beyond the trust, let's say, by supplying to factories numbered label, number hang tags, counted number of meters for fabric. They have an agreement of purchasing back the defective pieces. They have an agreement of purchasing back the extra pieces, etc. And I think what Mr. Aryan was referring when he was saying, where are these garments coming from? Where are these items coming from? And how much is imported? How much is produced in Cambodia? Is actually related to quite a lot to the extra production of the pieces that are present in the market. And this probably goes a little bit beyond the IP, because those are legit goods that are actually exported in another country and smuggled upon, but they're still legit in terms of intellectual property. So they are illegal, but they are not counterfeit. They are actually not fake. They are actually good. So it would be interesting to understand from the Ministry of Commerce if there is any data related to the fact of where are the goods coming from. Mr. Lau or Mr. Sambat, do you have some numbers related to this question?
So thank you so much. Unfortunately, we don't have the statistic number at our hand. Maybe the GMAC can have these figures or the CC, because related to the percentage on the counterfeit. Yes, thank you.
Yes, I guess probably nobody knows, because it requires actually a little bit of going out there in the market and analyzing where is it coming from. The next question, but perhaps it's time to mix a little bit of questions that have been put in the Q&A session. There's a very interesting question from Sara Marchini. Where can my students in fashion design find a clear guideline on how and where to register their design brand or innovation? Mr. Tia or somebody else wants to? I know somebody already replied. Benoit has replied to the questions, but Mr. Tia?
Okay, yes. So the design, the fashion design that they want to register is where to register their design or brand. In fact, we have briefly present this. So for the design, there are many ministry in charge of IP. So for industrial design and patent, you can submit application with the Ministry of Industry. And then for the trademark and brand, you can apply the application with the Ministry of Commerce. And then for the copyright, you can apply or submit application with the Ministry of Culture and Fine Art. So for other innovation that they are new here mean new worldwide. So you can apply the application with the Ministry of Industry, like design or utility model.
But you necessarily need to run up to three ministers, I understood, if you want to fully cover your design from every aspect, right? If I understood well, also from the previous replies in the chat, that there are quite, there is the Minister of Commerce is responsible for the trademark, for the patent is Minister of Industry, and for the design, also Minister of Industry, but for copyright, it's the Ministry of Culture and Fine Art.
Yeah.
So basically, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Some more questions coming up from the audience. Right. We can go ahead with one more company, one more question that regards a very famous company, New Balance. It's a sport item where some time ago, a few years ago, was awarded, won a case against a factory that was counterfeiting their products in China, in Shanghai, and actually was condemned to pay $1.5 million in damage to the brand for infringing the signature. Now, by these cases are small by international standard, but the damage that are there are quite high. Now, I would like to ask again, Mr. Tia, who is responsible in these cases? Is it the garment factory who is executing the work, or is the company who is sourcing and commissioning the work that is infringing the IP, or how does it work in practice? Who is ultimately responsible?
Thank you. So in this case, multiple parties can be responsible for their infringement, usually including a factory that made the shoe and the company sourcing them as well, and then perhaps a supplier and then retailer. So in Cambodia, a trademark owner, they have right to issue everyone who perform acts which is likely infringement will occur. That is a broad standard of the secondary liability, and it's very helpful for the trademark owner. So how it's work in practice is that you go after everyone can find that has money. Unfortunately, oftentimes they are fly-by-night operation, and then they have a way of disappearing before you can enforce the judgment against them. Still, if you have a strong enforcement program, so you consistently pursue such infringement, I believe you can eventually bring it under control in this case. Thank you.
I see. It can happen also a case that a factory genuinely take an order thinking that the who placed the order actually has the right to use that particular brand or the license. So without knowing it, actually going into something illegal. Mr. Kang, have you ever heard about some such case?
No, I've never heard about such case. I think to my understanding, order will either come directly from the brand, so that we know that we actually produce from the brands, and any particular brand will not ask us to produce any product using the logo of any other brands.
But sometimes there are middlemen.
There are some cases that order come from trading company.
Yes.
But anyhow, these are trading company that receive authorization from the brands, and factory would check the official document whether this trading company has really authorized by has been authorized by the brands, in order to source the product on their behalf.
I see. So there are specific sort of authorization that are issued to the importers. Christer, do you know such things? I personally never seen such a authorization to the importers. Yeah. So theoretically, yeah, some factory could be taken into mistake of doing something wrong, but without knowing it.
Especially there are cases that the brand cannot cover all the production factory they are dealing with. I think they are short of human resource to monitor all the production of it, so they have to authorize certain trading companies to have with their sourcing.
Yes. But I never seen the authorization to use their logo to the trading company. Anyhow,
and also in terms of shipment, what we understand from the factory is that shipment will go directly to the brand location, not to the trading company location.
We see. The destination also matters. Yeah, of course, makes sense. The destination will somehow have will be a clear indicator of the genuinity.
You don't produce for Adidas and then ship it to Tumpung market.
Yeah. I heard in India a few years ago there was a huge scandal by the employees of their own sourcing office, which were they inflating the number of pieces that they were producing. If the order was 100, the sourcing office was placing order for 120 and absorbing internally the extra 20. That was a big scandal and quite big fraud of something like $300 million in India a few years ago. Anyhow, I think the time, how much time we have, Rotanak? I think we are about to finish.
If you prefer, you can go for 5 more minutes, then we can close.
Yes.
Okay.
Any question from our panelists? Okay. So I would say that we can close it here. I have one last question. I don't think is too long to cut it across now. Therefore, I would rather thank you. Some other question we need to address, Rotanak, in the Q&A? important questions to address that have not been replied?
Sorry, I was muted. I think most have already been addressed, but if probably from all the panelists, if anyone would like to give any final remarks from each one of you before I close and then go to the closing remarks.
Yeah. There are a couple of questions about what are the charges of the registrations. I guess they are very nominal. Mr. Tia, correct? Quite nominal. It's more, I guess, some paperwork rather than charges.
The question is about registration, but let me try to answer this. So for the registration, I'm not sure which one he or she focus on, which area. So not sure for trademark or design or patent, but I assume this for trademark, as trademark is very popular. And then the fee is around 100. This is an official fee, so 105. So you just file application in one class, so pay 105.
In one class?
Yes, just one class only, and then you have two classes. You have multiple by two.
Well, okay.
Yeah,
I would have guessed a lower amount. And another question was related by Jagriti, was put by Jagriti. What is a trade dress? Mr. Peng.
I believe we don't have a law on trade dress, but we follow the standard of trademark. So a trade dress can be protected as a trademark, and then trademark also can be protected as a trade dress.
I can see Mr. Lau.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah. I can see Mr. Lau already replied extensively onto it. Yes, thank you, Mr. Lau. Okay, I think we are closing. I would like to thank all the participants. We have more than we had at some point 90 people. We are left with 61 people participating to this. Thank you very much. I hope you can stay tuned for more opportunity about the EuroCham to sneak peek into the garment sector. We will be having hopefully more and more activities, interesting activities to be done with the GMAC in our mutual interest and in the interest of the industry. So stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Mercy. Please stay with us. We have not yet fully finished. So I'm sorry. So please stay with us. So thank you again, Mercy, and then the entire panelists for their fruitful discussion, of course, on IP, intellectual property. So last but also the most important point, I would like to invite Ms. Sara Monti. Sara is currently the EuroCham board members, and she is kind enough today to join us and to share her closing remarks for today's webinar session. And thank you, Sara, for joining with us since the beginning, listening in, and I'm sure it has been a great opportunities for all of us. Thank you, Sara. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Ketratanak, for the kind introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, let me thank all the guests and panelists today for sharing these important knowledge and experiences on IP issues in the garment sector in Cambodia. I'm here representing EuroCham as member of the board of directors, but also as a lawyer with several years of experience also on IP matters, especially in China. And I'd like to give very short inputs from a legal perspective. In addition to this, let me say that I had the chance to collaborate with GMAC last year, even if on different issues from those covered by today's webinar. But in any case, I had the chance to gain important knowledge about the garment sector in Cambodia. Let me say that in my experience, in terms of IPR's protection, preventive measures and a good enforcement environment are key aspects to be considered. In this regard, in a country like Cambodia, known for its garment industry, where the outsourcing of manufacturing activities from foreign brands is quite common, I would like to stress two key points that to me are quite important. The first one is the importance of building and maintaining good relationships with local manufacturers, with local partners. And in this context, let me say that it's important that contracts clearly address IP issues, but I'm not talking about trademarks protections only or designs protections. I mean, all the IPRs involved in the manufacturing process, the IPRs related to the machineries, related to specific equipment, trade secrets, copyrights, and it's also important, for example, having a good monitoring program to control the activity of the manufacturer. Of course, let me say as a lawyer that a strong contractual arrangement, a strong contractual framework, it's necessary, but often it's not sufficient. I mean, that's why it's important to have a strong enforcement environment and facilitate the training and try to enhance the knowledge and the expertise of officers and authorities that are involved in IP cases. It's important that the authorities and local agencies stay up to date with all changes in a specific industry like intellectual property. The problem that I saw many times is that many enforcement authorities expect that the rights owner carries out private enforcement actions first. I mean, with investigation, with sending cease and desist letter, or negotiation with the infringers. And let me say that when I was in China, I saw many times this kind of practice of negotiation. And of course, for small scale infringements, I found that rights owners have a good option to start administrative procedures like with local agencies like the CCCC or the Anti-Crime Economic Police. But in case of no results, or in case of large scale infringements, I mean, the rights owner needs to consider to file a lawsuit in front of a provincial or municipal court. And I'm talking about a civil lawsuit. I think that's that is the problem. I mean, in Cambodia, there are no IP courts, or I mean, there's the lack of prepared or specialized judges with specific expertise on IP issues. And I saw how it's crucial, when I was in China, of course, I saw how it's crucial having prepared officers. I mean, in terms of timing of the proceedings, or in terms of implementation of the law and certainty of the enforcement. So for these reasons, I mean, it's a good option to file a lawsuit in Cambodia. So if you are sure that your IP rights are registered, if you already have collected a huge set of evidence, and you already done a sort of economic cost evaluation. I mean, the value in succeeding the civil action need to be higher than the cost of the civil proceeding itself. So just for the conclusion, let me say that a solid legal framework and a strong enforcement environment are key aspects, not only for preventing IPR infringements, but we need to consider them also for welcoming international investment. I would like to mention here the case of New Balance that we mentioned before. The decision of New Balance case was delivered in Shanghai in 2017, and I was there at that moment. And let me say, everybody was talking about it. But regardless the amount recognized to New Balance company, of course, not that large in light of global standards. But let me say that that decision was important because it represented a game changer of China's attitude toward piracy practices. And also because the decision brought a renovated confidence to international investors in China. And I think this is the key point of that decision. Let me say that certainly EuroCham stays fully committed, of course, in its fight against cotton fading problem in Cambodia through its cooperation with local agencies, like we said before, but also supporting its members by sharing important information about IPR's protection and how to address possible cases of infringement. Thanks again to our panelists, and I hope the contents today will be helpful for all attendants. And I wish you a good afternoon. So I finish. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you for your closing remarks and sharing your experience on IP topics. Thank you so much for that. So I think it's come to an end, but I would like to once again thanks to Southeast Asia IP SME Helpdesk for your collaboration in these webinar sessions. Thank you to also GMAC for your support in disseminating on these events also. So last but not least, I would like to also inform that next week EuroCham will also be hosting another webinars, also on the very new and also on the newly enacted the Cambodia competition law on Mondays from 3 p.m. exact time. So feel free to go to our website and sign up for these webinars. We have also available for digital marketing training course, which is still we still have our seat available. So to those who are still interested in this course, feel free to sign up with EuroCham. So that is all, and thank you all so much, and to all the panelists, especially His Excellency Sun Vichir, the entire team of MOC, the team of EuroCham's IP SME Helpdesk team, the entire panelists. Thank you, and we look forward to welcoming you again at the next webinar session. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And sorry,
Thank you very
Sara,
much
for not introducing you properly.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you, Sara.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.